This video is sponsored by .deck.co.uk, the place to be when it comes to all the stuff you need for the Pokemon trading card game. They have singles, complete competitive decks, and even some epic sleeves and deck boxes to pimp out your deck completely. So if there's still something you miss in order to go to a certain tournament or league, go take a look at .deck.co.uk. I come in, show my deck for a quick check by a judge. What the heck, I need new sleeves. Oh crap, it's always the same like that. Never satisfied, my opponents are looking at me like they wanna fight. I think they can't wait to see which deck I made. I see some Dragons popping up a grade. It'll be more difficult than I thought. Already the X has to do his job. Power of Blast and the V in the past. Discard palette last. I have surpassed my own expectations. Time for data motor activation. Powering up some stuff with concentration. Playing with a driving motivation. No extra information. Everything is known, all about anticipation, card dedication, strategy, visualization, lightning domination, and a bit of imagination, but 100% determination. Gotta keep up my reputation, yeah. Nationals is on, the cards can be drawn. My mindset isn't gone, I keep going until I've won. Nah, I don't really care what you play with, just as long as it isn't Terrakion. I bet they knew as soon as they saw my deck. This match is definitely in the bag. Electric invading the table, ain't nothing new, I've seen it all before. But still I play like no tomorrow, and when I beat my opponents they all say whoa. What's up YouTube, it's ZapdosTCG here, and as you already see from the title, I did pretty well at Nationals. Yeah, I became second, which means I'll be going to Worlds. So hopefully I can get some footage of that. I'll be going to Worlds in August, so look out for that. And yeah, I did pretty well with at Nationals, thanks to my deck that I built. It was a ZapdosTCG deck, and it focuses on the ball engine instead of collector, so it's a kind of different version I used to run in the past. So yeah, as you see, I run 2 Zekrom, so we'll go over the deck really quickly like this. Zekrom just helped me in the matches against Pokemon with 130 HP, like Terrakion and stuff, and the mirror match as well. So a pretty good card. Then we obviously have a 2 Thundurus, an ideal start if you want to charge on turn 1 to get that extra energy. Into this card pile when Thundurus is knocked out, or you can just attack for 80 when Thundurus is still alive, so that's great. And yeah, for those of you that watched my episode about Zekrom already know what's in this deck, and I explained in the TCBM video what I changed in the deck, so that'll be interesting to let you guys know. Yeah, it involves Raikou EX as well. The mirror match can deal 100 damage anywhere on your opponent's side of the field, so definitely help me out in certain situations. It also aids one Cleffa in a certain matchup. I'll explain the matchup later, so I'll just go over the deck first. Here's Mewtwo EX. Obviously, this one is one of the most powerful EXs, dealing X-Ball against your opponents like crazy, knocking out Dynamos and stuff like that. Up next is Tornadus EX, and this one is actually pretty helpful in the Terrakion matchup, which I had a lot in this tournament, so you'll hear about that in a second as well. So Tornadus EX, awesome, thanks to Skyro Bridge, can deal 60 damage on turn 1. And here we have the eel line. I run 3 eels and then 4 Dynamos, a bit like a variation of Dynamos. We have this one with Spark. I run 2 of those. Those are not reversed. Those are like the only ones, random receiver as well, that aren't reversed in my decks. As you see, I like to play with reverses. It's just to make it a bit more interesting and special in my opinion. So here's another Dynamo with 40 HP again, and this one is from Noble Victories using Thunder Wave. I didn't use a single Dynamo attack, so that's neat to know. And here we have a Dynamo with a free retreat. I only run 1 copy because if you start with it usually gets donked or something, but if you start with it and it doesn't get dunked, or you have 2 Pokemon in play, you can just free retreat for something you like this one for example, Smeargle. This one is actually one of the cards that helped me the most in this tournament. If it wasn't for Smeargle, I wouldn't have became a second, so Smeargle definitely helped me out. And Shaman as well, moving around the energies. In the last match I had that was crazy, like my Mewtwo I had 10 energies or something, 2 DCs and stuff, so that was crazy thanks to Shaman. And the energy line is like 9 lightning energies and then 3 DCE, a total of 12 energies for you guys that want to know. You can also check out this deck list, but the only differences is that I have Mewtwo EX, 2 of those in that deck list instead of 1 Tornadus EX and Mewtwo EX. You can check out the complete deck list in episode 48, the update of Zekrom actually. And here we have the trainers and supporters, 3 catchers just to catch her out. It's just really good in every deck catcher. Then we have 4 junk arms, obviously, to get back all the cards you need, like Dual Ball, for example. I had the worst luck with Dual Ball in this tournament ever, so I'll talk about that as well. Switch, just 1, since I do run 2 Skyward Bridges, 2 plus power, 1 Eviolite, or 2 Eviolites actually. These actually help with Tornado ZX. I use them on him a lot, so because if they attack like Terrakion and you have resistance to fighting with Eviolite, you have to attack like a bunch of times to actually knock me out. Super Rod to get back all the awesome stuff. Ultra Ball, just great to get out that Mewtwo EX when you really need to, or Tornado ZX. Level Ball, 2 of those to get that back, or to get out the Electrics. 3 Dual Ball. These ones, I have still dying on running Ultra Balls instead of Dual Balls, because most of the times I get Tails twice in the row, and then I use Junk Arm and still get Tails twice, so that they didn't actually help me in this tournament. So next we have a 3 Random Receiver. Yeah, here it is. Random Receiver actually lowers my supporter count for this deck, because with Random Receiver we can just get a supporter every turn. That's why it's in this deck, 3 of those. And as I said, 2 Skyward Bridge, this actually helps out a lot, especially when you start with like something with Dynamo with 1 retreat cost. That's why Skyward Bridge is in this deck as well, just to get those out of the active spot, or just to have Smeargle on the active spot and just retreat after that, so that's great. 2 of those, and then the supporter line is like the lowest supporter count ever. We have like 1, 2, 8 supporters in this deck, so that's crazy. You might think this doesn't work, but I proved myself to that it actually works thanks to Random Receiver. So we run 4 Junipers, the main supporter of this deck, just to draw all the cards you need actually. Then with Smeargle you can just draw again with Juniper or Oak or something to draw your deck on turn 1 or something like that. All the stuff you will need, you'll definitely draw into them. And here we have 2N. This definitely helps in the matchups where you actually are with 1 prize left or something, and you just want to have that N to your opponent that they don't have anything in their hand and they can't do anything about it, and it's just really powerful in the late game. That's why it's in this deck, 2 of those, and then 1 Professor Oak's New Theory and 1 Sage Training. Sage Training actually helps me a lot to donk, and Professor Oak's New Theory is just great. It's been around for ages, and it will be, because Professor Oak's New Theory is just so good. And that's it for my deck list. Also, when you go to Nationals, you get this awesome Excavalier promo card, as you can see. I already showed you this, the ones for regionals and cities and stuff like that. So this is the one you get in Nationals. You also get a unique dice right here. For me, it says Belgium 2012, or in my language, Belgium. So yeah, National Championship dice. That's always nice. And yeah, the worst matchup in the entire tournament was, of course, Terrakion. But I'll talk about that in about a couple of seconds, actually. So that was it for what I've got with my deck list and how it did. I'll talk about that later. So now to the prizes which I won. I got myself 2 booster boxes. I sold 1, and yeah, here's the other one. I'll be opening up that very soon, so look out on my channel. It'll be an epic opening once again. I never expected to open 2 Dark Explorer booster boxes on my channel, but it looks like Fate has something else in mind. And yeah, I also got this unique trophy like this. It says Finalist, Trading Card Game, Nationals. It's just awesome to set it like this. I can't actually put it in every background, but I'll try to put it in this one for now. I also got my other trophies that were delayed for some reason. I couldn't get them when I won those tournaments or something. I went third in regionals, if you remember that correctly. And then we also have this trophy for Cities Champion, where I used to run Magnezone. And that's it for the prizes and the deck I used. So now let's go on to the matchups right now. Alright, round 1 I was up against one of the new decks. It was a Darkrai EX Zoroark deck with the usual stuff in there, like Weavile, but also an Absol, and that was a starter Pokemon, and I-Star with Smeargle. I get out Skyward Bridge, and I use Dual Ball to get out Tornado EX. I give him a DCE, and I use Juniper to discard my hand and draw 7 cards, and yeah, I use Plus Power and then Junk Arm to use that Plus Power twice, and then I just retreat my Smeargle thanks to Skyward Bridge, and I use Blow Through for the knockout. So yeah, I actually dunked an Absol. That was kind of crazy, and yeah, I know it's a cheap win, but hey, that happens in Pokemon. And up next, I was up against a deck from the past, Rush Explosion. This match was absolutely smoothly because yeah, I used Raikou EX in this matchup to snipe all the Cyndaquils and stuff, and I ate the Cleffa as well. So I used Thunder Fang on the Cleffa. That was kind of neat to do. And yeah, I just knocked out his Reshiram's with my own Zekroms because yeah, he used the Poke Power of Typhlosion, and that made it really easy for Bolt Strike to knock him out in one blow. So yeah, I think that Reshifulotion just can't keep up with the speed of the current decks, and that's why I advise players that to play something else if you plan to make it far at your own national. So try something else, because yeah, stage 2 decks are dead, as I already mentioned before. Anyway, round 3 I was up against an updated version of CMT, which meant that I could be dunked quite easily since I do run Dynamos. Lucky for me, I start with Thundurus, and she starts with a Tornado ZX, and she didn't have the necessary cards to pull off a dunk, so that meant I was safe and the game could continue. I used Dual Ball, and yeah, Double Tails, like usual. The Dual Balls didn't work quite well in this tournament for me, but yeah, I used Junk Arm for Dual Ball, and then I get one hit to get out Smeargle. I use Switch, and then I use Juniper and play out my hand, and get some stuff out like Dynamos with Level Ball. Then I use Portrait, and I see a PONT in my opponent's hand, so I get a fresh new hand as well. So yeah, my setup was perfect thanks to Smeargle, and I even got out Skyro Bridge to manually retrieve my Smeargle for Thundurus and use Charge on turn 1, so that was great. And in this matchup I used Zekrom to knock out Tornado ZX, and my own Mewtwo EX to counter her, so that was pretty much it for that matchup. I was at 3 wins and 0 losses, so it was going the right way for me. And next up, I was up against the Fighting deck. My worst weakness it was a Terrakion, Groudon, Landorus deck. I could start the match, which was quite good. She starts with a Landorus, and I start with something like a Mewtwo EX or something, and yeah, once I got out some energies on Mewtwo EX, I just slaughtered those Landoruses. Then she used her own Mewtwo EX to knock out mine, and I had to rely on Tornado EX and Super Rod to get back my own Mewtwo EX to win this match for me, but lucky for me, when that way I could get out Super Rod and stuff. So yeah, the next round I was up against another Fighting deck, but this time it was a solo Terrakion deck with lots of loss removers and stuff, so yeah, quite an annoying deck, but yeah. So we start, and I have Zekrom on my active spot, and he starts by attaching a manual energy to his Terrakion, a Fighting energy. I get out Smeargle plus Skyro Bridge like usual. I attach a Lightning energy to my Zekrom and retreat. That way my Smeargle is in the active spot, and I use Portrait, and I got out Skyro Bridge as well, but in the Portrait he had nothing, no supporters, only random receivers, so my Portrait failed completely and I didn't have any supporters in my hand right now. So yeah, I just attach an Eviolite to my Smeargle for some reason, because if my Smeargle gets knocked out, I pretty much lost the game, or because I didn't have any supporters in my hand as well. So yeah, it was pretty devastating for me, because I used Portrait twice in that matchup, and twice he didn't have any supporters, and that pretty much lost me the game right there. But lucky for me, I still got into the top cut, because he didn't lose a single round as well, just like me. We were the only ones that didn't lose a single round right there. So yeah, still got in the top cut. And in the top cut I was up against a mirror match, which meant Zekils versus Zekils, quite epic. The first round I dunked one Dynamo thanks to Smeargle's Portrait. That way I was able to get out Mewtwo EX with an X-Ball and Skyro Bridge, so yeah, and the DCE as well, so X-Ball for the KO on Dynamo. But then the next match, definitely Smeargle has proven his functionality on my deck. In round 2, she sets up Thundurus. I used Mewtwo EX out of nowhere, and she doesn't seem to get out her own Mewtwo EX. She was running the Collector version of Zekils, but she didn't draw into Collector quite yet, so she also had a Zekrom EX on the bench, and since that's a bit slower, she couldn't keep up with the speed, and yeah, I definitely won that match. So with that, I already got my World's Invite in the bag, but there was still the final round, and guess what player I come up against? The one that I lost before the top cut, and yeah, the solo Terrakion deck is back. And an interesting fact is that there was also an Empoleon Pichu deck in the top cut, so that was surprising. So yeah, he defeated that with a solo Terrakion deck, of course, otherwise I would have faced that match, which would have been much better for my Zekrom deck. But yeah, I was up against a solo Terrakion deck, and the finals went on, Zekils versus Terrakion. In round 1, I started with Tornado EX quite fast, but he still managed to get the upper hand with catching some Dynamos and stuff, and eventually I lost. In round 2, we had the best match of the entire day. I managed to get out 3 Eels into play, which was kind of surprising. I never had that stuff, like 3 Eels in play. That was crazy. And yeah, it worked out by using Mewtwo EX. We were tied at one prize, and that Mewtwo EX came out of nowhere with the help of Shaman, and I managed to win that round. It was crazy because Mewtwo EX had like 8 energies or something, 2 DCs, and then 4 lightning energies. That was like the best Mewtwo EX attack ever to knock out Terrakion. And then it was up to the last round of the entire day, and that's where everything went wrong. I started with Shaman, which never happened to me before, and yeah, I used some dual balls in the match, but I'll explain those in a second. So he starts with Terrakion, obviously, and he attaches a manual energy. It's my turn, and I have total garbage in my hand, a bunch of lightning energies and 2 dual balls, so if I can get out Smeargle, I can work out, but yeah. I use Dual Ball and I get Double Tails. How wonderful. So I use another Dual Ball in my hand, get Double Tails again, so that was unbelievable. And I was stuck with the Shaman, I just attached an energy to it, and that was it for my move. So it was his move. And with Random Receiver he gets out in, and that was the only supporter in his hand, so he decides to use it even though I had a garbage hand. And he starts to get a better hand, but then time gets called, which meant that there will be 3 turns left and then it's over. The first one to get a prize right there wins the game, so that was kind of disappointing because the match could have turned out completely different. So I use a catcher to avoid damage and stuff, so I was stuck with an electric on the active spot at one point and a Mewtwo EX with 3 energies on the bench, and I did have a plus power and a catcher in my hand to knock out a Terrakion on his bench. And he had a Terrakion without energies on the active spot and the one that I just mentioned on the bench. So that was my target, the one on the bench, which meant if I can get Switch, I win. If he can get Switch, he can just destroy my electric and win that way. So yeah, eventually he gets the Switch first and he beats me that way. It was too bad because time got called and we didn't get to have an interesting match, but still it was kind of exciting to have that last tension in the air. And that's it for my tournament report. So now let's take a look at our Poké-News, which is a lot of news this time around. We have some old school Pokemon that came back, Charmander, Charmeleon, Squirtle, and Wartortle. The Charmander can attach a basic fire energies or 2 basic fire energies from the Scarpel to himself with his first attack, which is interesting. And Charmeleon does 50 damage plus 10 more for each damage counter on him, which makes the maximum amount 130 damage for a Charmeleon, which is just epic. Squirtle has the ability to prevent all damage done to him if he's on the bench. And Wartortle can just jump into his shell with his first attack to prevent damage with a coin flip. So yeah, aside to that, there's shocking news. This fall, 10 promos will feature new EXs, and the promos this time are Mewtwo EX, Darkrai EX, and Rayquaza EX, which means the price will go down for the Mewtwo EX and Darkrai EX, which is kind of a shame because some people actually bought them at a really high price and they were really expensive. But yeah, they make the value of the cards a bit less, so that's kind of a shame. But it's also good for new players to get into the game to get these awesome, powerful EXs. Next on the list is the 6th Japanese Black and White set, the Booster Box promo, which will be Flygon. And that Pokemon has an awesome ability that puts 1 damage counter on every single Pokemon of your opponent's side of the field if he's your active Pokemon between turns, so that's quite devastating. And his attack deals 80 damage, and if you discard a Fighting and a Grass energy, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed, but that's optional with this attack, so that's awesome. And now let's go on to the stuff from the McDonald's. Starting on June 15, the Happy Meals at your McDonald's will contain some new Pokemon stuff, such as figurines and some special Holo Foil promo cards. And to finish off this long episode with style, let's talk about our upcoming set in August, Dragon Exalted. This new set will feature the cards from the Japanese set, Dragon Blade and Dragon Blast, so we'll be getting new EXs. The Dragon types will be in this set as well, like Rayquaza EX, Giratina EX, and the good stuff. Actually, Giratina isn't that good, but still, Rayquaza is awesome. But also the other awesome stuff like Terrakion EX, Mew EX probably, so that's really awesome to stay tuned for. As I said, it will be released on the 15th of August, so definitely get yourself a box of this because it'll be epic as always. And that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button because you know I always appreciate that. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or epic new ideas, then the comment section is your place to be. And for those of you that haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do it right now, or otherwise you'll miss my second Dark Explorers booster box on my channel. Anyway, this was ZapdosTCG. Thanks for watching, have a nice day, and till next time.